Hello, friends, neighbors, Fitchburg, and beyond. This is Joe Maldonado. I am presenting to you episode 9, the last of the single digit episodes of D1 All Stars. I'm super excited today. As you know, sometimes my guests are somewhat familiar to me. Sometimes I know them really well. Sometimes I don't at all. But I know these folks pretty well. I would say they live 4 houses down from me. And this episode is my first episode with more than one person on camera, so we're working out the details. I would like to welcome Kierstin and Ryan Huelsemann, uh, or Huelsemann, or Huelsemann, depending on how you pronounce it. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And us.
Yes. Expect a little bit of awkwardness, but we always have fun with it. This episode is really special to me because I get to interact with people that I interact with a lot. So we're going to flow. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics. But they are neighbors next door to me. And besides me just sort of spewing out a bunch of stuff, I'll let y'all both introduce yourselves and just tell our viewers who you are.
I'm Kierstin.
And I'm Ryan.
We have been together since high school and have 4 children and 2 dogs and now a house.
High school
been married
sweethearts.
for almost 20 years, we've been together for almost 20 years, and married for almost 16.
So I never meet any high school sweethearts that are my age or younger that are together. So let's start out with that. What's the love story?
We met working at Culver's in Sauk City.
Yes.
I grew up between Merrimack and Sauk City. He grew up in Mazomanie. And we met the summer we were 16.
Yeah.
And how I met him was I was dating his older brother's best friend. And then they went off to college, parted ways. Ryan and I kind of stayed in touch as friends. Then he started working at Culver's with me and his older brother. And then we just became good friends. And then our senior year, just after turning 18, we're like, hey, we're going to date and been together ever since.
So couples always have slightly differing stories. Is that an accurate account, Ryan, or do you have your own twist on it?
Yeah, pretty accurate. I mean, we met first when she came over with her then boyfriend, who was my brother's best friend, and then proceeded to ingratiate herself into our family by getting in trouble because my brother hosted a party while we were gone camping. My parents let him stay home because he was a senior in high school. And of course they had a party which caused some issues because yeah, exactly.
No, I can't believe you're saying that.
See, there's the discord. I love it. That's what I was looking for. Conflict.
Yeah, no, it I don't need to go into details, but it
I think we're past statute of limitations. There was underage drinking involved.
There you go.
Yeah. So my parents really liked her at first. They didn't have any qualms about us dating or anything, but she won them over, and we've been together ever since.
Yep.
So how'd you get to Fitchburg?
Oh, that's an even longer story. We moved around a lot. I ended up not graduating college, but for medical reasons and whatnot. But then he graduated, and it was just right as the recession hit. So we were newly married, just out of college, our son was born a month after we got married, our oldest. And we moved around a lot. We experienced a lot of income and housing instability with him working contract positions that didn't hire. And I did some daycare work and nannying and stuff like that. But ultimately, we found it was more economical for me to be a stay-at-home parent and taking my son with me to positions when I could. And then eventually, we had number 2, the number 3, the number 4. But over time, we moved around a lot for jobs for him, for contracts. And then Fitchburg, how we ended up in Fitchburg was through Habitat for Humanity when we qualified for a home through them.
Shout out to Habitat. So I know I've talked in previous episodes about our neighborhood, but let's talk a little bit about the neighborhood. There's a lot of Habitat homes there. What do you love about where you live?
Oh, the people. I think that's true. I mean, one thing I personally love about Habitat is that you get to know your neighbors right off the bat. Like we've helped build each other's homes. There's people from all over the world, different backgrounds, different life experiences, different religions, so many different languages spoken. And we all just, we're all in community together. We all, we may not always see things the same way, but we connect.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that everyone in the neighborhood has their own unique story as how they got here, but there are so many touchstones about, similarities there, that there's bonds that you can form, with your neighbors based on, oh, well, we went through a period of the same sort of situation, or we found ourselves in the Habitat for Humanity program because of sometimes the same people. We know the same people, and it turns out like, oh, it's 2 degrees of separation, and they're the reason why we're both in this neighborhood. And so it's kind of a good bond.
How do your kids like it?
Oh, they love it. And I mean, all 4 different people, right? Our oldest enjoys having his own room, and he's 15 now, and he has his group of friends, and so they like to hang out. And he, like I said, he going from sharing a 8x10 space with 3 siblings to having his own space has been remarkable for him. Our second, who is 12, he likes having the neighborhood kids to play with, but he also tends to be more of a computer person. So he tends to play with his friends on Discord and all those fun things. Our daughter, Ren, Serenity, is 11, and she has so many friends. She's always out playing with somebody. And then same with our 9-year-old Kellen, has made a bunch of friends in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
So.
one of the things that they one of the things that really drove us in the direction of Habitat and made us as grateful as we have been for being able to partner with them has been the stability that it's given the kids, both for being able to form friendships and connections with people at school and in the neighborhood. Because when you move around a lot, you don't have a chance to make friends at school or in your community, because you know that you're just going to have to pick up stakes and move in 6 months, in a year or 2 years. And so that was one of the things that they wanted most, was to be able to build those relationships and have that stability, knowing we're still going to be here next year. When I go trick-or-treating with my friends in the neighborhood, I know I'm going to get to pick out costumes that are going to complement each other next year, instead of not knowing where I'm going to be.
Yeah, no clashing on costumes. We only want one one witch.
Right.
Yes.
Or if they're going to dress all as a group as the Ghostbusters, right? Or something like, you can do that.
I love it. And I promise you that Habitat for Humanity did not pay either of us but this is a beautiful story. Let's talk a little bit more about that. We're going to go to break, but Kierstin and Ryan, Joe, D1 All-Stars. We'll be back in a minute. D1 All-Stars, we are back with Kierstin and Ryan. So you were talking about sort of why your kids love the neighborhood. Your youngest 2 should probably consider running for alder once I step down, because they know everybody and they're so like personable. I love it. And if you like Kierstin's hair, You will also like Ren, because Ren has always got a different color going on their head. So I love it. One thing that I love about y'all is I always see you guys out and about, whether it's walking the dog, whether I see the kids around. Um, let's talk about some of the stuff that you guys got going on. I almost feel like when I walk past your house, like I'm on Willie Street or I'm on the east side or something instead of in Fitchburg. I really enjoy it. The garden, let's talk about the garden. There is this awesome cinder block garden in front of your house. Why'd you do it?
Well, part of it was, I grew up with a big garden at my house when I was a kid. My dad had a 150 foot by 50 foot plot that he filled with all kinds of vegetables and flowers that he would grow. And it was far more than our family could eat. So it always was a source of community. One of my very first jobs that I got paid for, well, really, it was more of a chore, but my parents paid me to do it, was to fill a wheelbarrow and wander our neighborhood as a kid to give the produce to people in the neighborhood who could use it. Because otherwise it was obviously going to waste, and it was a good way for us to show other people that we cared in the neighborhood. And so one of the first things that we did when we first moved into the community was plant our own garden. And then this year I decided I wanted to expand it to kind of help support the community, especially, in the wake of 2020 being a year where a lot of people struggled with food insecurity, joblessness, and just generally being cloistered inside because of COVID. I said, you know what? I love to grow food, and I just don't ever, there's not enough mouths in our household to eat it all, right? And so I want to provide something for people so that they can take it. But I also don't necessarily want to be wandering around with a wheelbarrow trying to give it to people. And so I thought to myself, well, in the spirit of the Willie Street area, where everyone is kind of part of the community and they have lots of community gardens, I thought, well, what I want to do, I want to build a community garden out in front of our house, so people walking past can see the produce, they can pick what they need, they can take it home, they can feed their families, and it serves as a good meeting point where we can say hi to people that cross our paths and get to know other people in the neighborhood as well.
Yeah. Well, and I also think through the pandemic, so many neighbors, that's what we had, hey, I picked up this, I have extra, who else needs it? Hey, this came from, yeah. Hey, this came from our mosque and we have extras, anybody need it? And throughout, several neighbors have done that for us, and then vice versa. And that's one thing I think ultimately makes community, is that you're looking out for your neighbors, you're helping each other out.
Absolutely. And I will say that they're both very responsible neighbors, in that they emailed their alder and they asked, is this permissible? And the city said it's okay. So just letting you know, they're allowed to do that. And if you want to do it, get in touch. It's an awesome idea. I love it. And Ryan, you're also you and I also have a lot in common, in that we love those two-wheel vehicles known as bicycles. Talk a little bit more about Warped Wheel.
Sure. Yeah. Warped Wheel is an effort for myself, primarily to keep myself busy, right? Keep me out of trouble, keep me, working on things. But really it had its genesis in the fact that I've always loved bikes, but I could never really afford to do the maintenance on a bike to keep it in good repair, because bike shops can be expensive. And so, when you have lots of kids, you have lots of bikes, right? And every time something would go wrong with one, I'd have to go to a bike shop, and that was money that would come out of some other part of our budget. And so I taught myself how to repair my own kids' bikes and my own bikes out of a financial interest. But I also understood that, it's not just me, it's not just our family that has those challenges. And so, I set out to find bikes that would normally have gone into the scrap heap. They would normally not be something that people would spend money on fixing, but I had time. And so my goal was to fix those bikes up and find them new homes. Sometimes through the process of donating them, whether it be to programs like Free Bikes for Kids, which is an organization that I volunteer with every year, or Wheels for Winners, or Pepe Barros does Down with Bikes. So there's all kinds of different organizations that I've partnered with in the past and continue to do. But then I also fix up slightly nicer ones and find them new homes as well. So it gives me a sense of a little bit of purpose. It helps me recycle some stuff, so I feel good environmentally, and it also kind of helps satiate my need for constantly getting bikes, because that's something that you chide me on regularly, is that my garage is always full of bikes, and I can never say no to a really interesting bike. And so instead of filling the garage with bikes that are only for me and that I'll never have a time to ride, I find them, I fix them, I find them a home where they'll be loved, and then I don't have to keep a hold of them forever.
Well, and I think another thing that led us to that too was just that with 4 kids, bikes aren't cheap. And so for us to have bikes as a family as well, it's been helpful that you've been able to find bikes that maybe need fixing, are still pretty good bikes. And then our family has bikes that way and have been able to afford to enjoy those things that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to afford.
Yeah, and I've definitely handed off bikes that I don't need anymore, and you've given it a home, fixed it up, sold it, and I've also bought bikes from you, and I've had you fix my bike. So as a neighbor, I appreciate it, because the bike shop closes at a certain time, and at least I can hit up Ryan and be like, "Hey, can you help me out with this?" So much love, much gratitude to y'all. Kiera, I'm gonna finish off with you, and then we can take it into the next segment. But what do you do to keep yourself occupied?
Oh, a lot.
Yes.
Community, I guess you would call it community organizing. I've worked with various groups, both here in Allied community, including Walkie Talkies I've been a part of. Shout out to Carmela, who runs that, as well as there's a parent or a grandparents group, which I just like going, and I think getting to know other people in the community, whether they're grandparents, parents, kids, just is a part of enjoying where we live. Also, I've been a part of Allies for Black Lives Madison and helping with different efforts for that, including we've done outreach with kids, with schools, building awareness and around equity and anti-racism. Most recently this summer, we did the Solidarity Saturdays, which was really fun. And then other groups as well, as far as say Skies Clean Water I've worked with. I'm trying to, I don't want to name them all. I don't think we have time.
So it all boils down to, you enjoy talking with people, and I can attest to that, because every time me and you see each other, or I see Ryan, like I usually end up late somewhere, because we all end up talking for a really long time. But also, it sounds like really getting to know the community and making the community better and more equitable. So we'll talk more about that when we come back. This is Joe, again, Ryan and Kierstin, episode 9 of D1 All Stars. We'll see you all soon. Welcome back to the last single-digit episode of D1 All Stars. We're here with Ryan and Kierstin, talking about the neighborhood, family, bikes, gardening, activism, everything. So, Kierstin, I want to hear kind of more about how you got into the journey of, community change, right? Like everybody at some point gets activated to be able to say, I want to do this, I want to contribute, I want to give back, and I want to change things that aren't right. What's your journey?
I think really it was our own struggles, both with like we've mentioned, housing and income instability, as well as I myself am dyslexic, and so moving through the education system myself, and now with children with special needs as well. Health concerns. I have a genetic disorder that makes me more susceptible to injury as well as other health issues, and two of our children also have it. And just generally getting to know people in my community and just seeing some of the things that people struggle with that doesn't make sense to me that they would struggle with. Really, I think getting our home and having our own stability through our own affordable housing makes me want that for other people, and what barriers exist for people from those services, or even from home ownership and stability themselves, and wanting to be more, to limit those barriers and get rid of them.
Yeah, that's really holistic. You listed off a lot of different issues, and they all are sort of interacting with one another. Both of you have experienced a lot of different systems, right? You've had to navigate different systems. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they could work better. What made you decide to say, I'm going to do something about it?
There wasn't a choice not to try to do something about it. Especially, like I said, after we moved into our home and getting to see what else has been going on in our community, as well as then, in 2020, I think has been opening a lot of people's eyes. We've all been paying attention, and there's different reckonings going on. I think it's time for change. It's time for us to build a society and systems that put equity in people and not in things, and to build more collective, more collaborative systems and communities.
So invest in people, not in things. How does that look in action?
Oh, I think it can look a lot of different ways. It can look like community gardens. It can look like bike programs for kids. It can look like going outside and taking a walk and talking with your neighbors. It can look like, hey, we see this issue. What are we going to do about it? And making it a we instead of a them issue, making it a we or instead of an I. Because we all struggle with something. And so, and we all have basic needs that need to be met. And that's all, something that we all experience.
I think one of the things that you focused on a lot too is addressing the root cause of challenges in our systems rather than the symptoms, because it's one thing to deal with the immediate effects or the immediate situation at hand, but it's another thing to dig deeper. And figure out why and how do we change those things so that we build the system better from the ground up, rather than simply dealing with the everyday things that come flying at you, from the system as it is.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is we see a lot of leaders, right? There's a lot of leaders out there, or people who want to be leaders. We need more organizers. We need more people who are going to be representatives of our communities and do represent our communities, and that are willing to then invest in the grassroots community leaders that already exist, but are finding barriers to those things. And how do we uplift it and empower them?
Yeah. That's what I try to do. I can talk about what I'm doing, but I love stuff like this where I get to hear about what other people are up to and bring more people to the party.
Exactly.
You know, if one person's picking all the toppings on the pizza, chances are there's gonna be a lot of people that aren't gonna eat it. Does that mean that you're interested in public life? What's going on? Tell us.
Yes, I am running for Dane County Supervisor for District 27, which D1 falls in.
Awesome. What made you make that move?
I can't just talk about change. I have to be a part of it. I can't just call into county or city board meetings and get frustrated when I'm not being listened to or heard. It's time for me to step up.
Yeah. All right. You got 30 seconds. Tell me your 3 things that you want to do while you're in office.
Affordable housing obviously is a major one. Health and human needs and services is another one. And I think reimagining safety. For me, that means looking at root causes and what can we do to address those rather than only focusing on after some harm happens within our community. What do we do to prevent it? What do we do to help people?
So thank you all for sharing your story. Good luck in your journey. This is D1 All-Stars, Ryan and Kierstin. Y'all have a great day.